Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayat Mudire Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhakti Krishnaya Vasudevaya Devaki Nandanaya Cha Nanda Gopa Kumaraya Govindaya Namo Namah Namo Pankajanabhaya Namo Pankajamalin Namo Pankajanitaya Namaste Jangrahi. So we are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 19, which is the appearance of Shrikadev Goswami. And this is text 5. Atho vihaye mamam chalokam vimarshita heyataya purastat Krishnang sevam adhimanyamana upavishat prayam amartyanadyam. Once again, if you want to repeat it. Atho vihaye mamam chalokam vimarshita heyataya purastat Krishnang sevam adhimanyamana upavishat prayam amartyanadyam. Translation and purport is Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Maharaj Parikshit sat down firmly on the banks of the Ganges to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization, because transcendental loving service to Krishna is the greatest achievement superseding all other methods. Purport. For a devotee like Maharaj Parikshit, none of the material planets, even the topmost Brahmaloka, is as desirable as Goloka Vrindavan, the abode of Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, original personality of Godhead. This earth is one of the innumerable material planets within the universe, and there are innumerable universes also within the compass of the Mahatattva. The devotees are told by the Lord and his representatives, the spiritual masters or acharyas, that not one of the planets within all the innumerable universes is suitable for the residential purposes of a devotee. The devotee always desires to go back home, back to Godhead, just to become one of the associates of the Lord in the capacity of servitor, friend, parent, or conjugal lover of the Lord, either in one of the innumerable Vaikuntha planets or in Golok Vrindavan, planet of Lord Sri Krishna. All these planets are eternally situated in the spiritual sky, the Parabhyoma, which is on the other side of the causal ocean within the Mahatattva. Maharaj Parikshit was already aware of all this information due to his accumulated piety and birth in a high family of devotees, Vaishnavas. And thus he was not at all interested in the planets. Modern scientists are very eager to reach the moon by material arrangements, but they cannot conceive of the highest planet of this universe. But a devotee like Maharaj Parikshit does not care a fig for the moon, or for that matter, for any of the other planets. So when he was assured of his death on a fixed date, he became more determined in the transcendental loving service of Lord Krishna by complete fasting on the banks of the transcendental river Yamuna, which flows down by the capital of Hastinapur in the Delhi state. Both the Ganges and the Yamuna are Amartya, transcendental rivers, and the Yamuna is still more sanctified for the following reasons. Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsya Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Bandhu Jagat Gopesha Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Pranamami Hari Vanchakalpasya Kripasin Vacha Patitanam Papa Vishnavito Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vashadi Gaura Bhakti Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama Rama Rama. So welcome you devotees to this morning Bhagavatam discussion. So I've been given another opportunity to present the Bhagavatam, but I'm really absolutely not qualified. I can't go deep into philosophy, bad at articulating. However, as instructed, I have taken this opportunity to glorify Bhagavatam a little bit to my capacity as a service and for my purification. Seek the blessings of wonderful Vaishnavas, so I may speak something of Sambhav. So, going back to the translation, Maharaj Parikshit sat firmly on the banks of the Ganges to concentrate his mind in Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization, because transcendental loving service to Krishna is the greatest achievement, superseding all other methods. So in the previous verse, Maharaj Parikshit learned that sorry, about the curse that in 7 days he would die from the snake bird Takshaka. And in yesterday's class, Kshatriya Mathaji very nicely explained that far from being disturbed about it, he accepted this as good news, an opportunity to move away from worldly things. So I was just thinking, contrast that to a person who has spent all his life accumulating wealth in complete attachment to his house, family, children, job, position, bank balance, all the things that are in this material world is, is considered very important, right? And is, busy planning. I mean, that's what we are generally doing, busy planning for the future. What maybe our children's education, which is, a valid thing, or the next car that, one wants to buy, or the next vacation. Now, if such a person, who is completely immersed in materialistic thoughts and plans, receives news that because of some disease he's going to die soon, that person is going to be completely devastated because he knows nothing other than the material things, none of which is really going to go with him beyond this material realm. So when he passes on from this current setting, he has nothing at all to look forward to. I mean, if I think about something within our realm of experience, I can say we are traveling somewhere and we are well equipped with our credit card and money. I mean, whatever, tickets and everything. But suddenly we are, for some reason, dropped in an island or some place where none of this works. Our cell phone, our credit card, all these things that we take shelter in, none of it works, and we know nothing about that land. So isn't that scary? It's like, it's just yourself. It's almost like standing there with no shelter of anything, no, unless we have studied about that location, right? And we are actually in our reading group, reading Canto 3 right now. And in chapter 30, which is entitled Description of Lord Kapila, of adverse fruitive activities, this harsh reality is very nicely explained. So let me go there. I'll read a couple of translations from there. So text 2, this is from chapter 30. Whatever is produced by the materialist with great pain and labor for so-called happiness, the Supreme Personality as the time factor destroys, and for this reason, conditioned soul laments. Text 3, the misguided materialist does not know that his very body is impermanent, and that the attractions of home, land, and wealth, which are in relationship to that body, are also temporary. Out of ignorance only, he thinks that everything is permanent. Text 4, the living entity, in whatever species of life he appears, finds a particular type of satisfaction in that species, and he is never averse to being situated in such a condition. And finally, text 5, the conditioned living entity is satisfied in his own particular species of life, while deluded by the covering influence of the illusory energy. He feels little inclined to cast off his body, even when in hell, for he takes delight in hellish enjoyment. This particular one, text 5, is very interesting in that, and in all of them, Prabhupada talks about how we don't want to leave this body, this impermanent condition, in spite of all the distress that we go through. But in that particular purport, Prabhupada talks about how when Indra was cursed by his spiritual master Brihaspati, right, to become a hog in this planet. So Indra took birth as a hog, and he got busy with all the activities of a hog. Prabhupada explains that he has his extended family, feeds on stool and whatnot, and he's very happy. Now, after many days, when Brahma wants to bring him back, wants to recall him to his heavenly kingdom, the hog Indra, he had forgotten everything about his royal position, his position as king of the heavenly kingdom, and he refuses to go back. So Prabhupada says that this is the spell of Maya. Even Indra forgets his heavenly standard of life and becomes satisfied with the body of a hog. So similarly, the living entity under the influence of Maya, the conditioned soul, becomes so affectionate towards our particular situation, our particular body, that even if it's offered to us that give up this body and come immediately, you'll get a king's body, we don't agree. And that's exactly what Krishna is doing. I mean, he's personally canvassing that, give up everything in this material, come to me, I will give you all protection. But we are not agreeable and think that, oh, we are very happy here, why do we want to give up what we have here? No matter how bad our condition is, how abominable it is. But Maharaj Parikshit, though, being a devotee, and of course he was born in a very high family of the Pandavas, which we read about here, and the family of Vaishnavas. He was an enlightened soul, and so he sat down on the banks of the Ganges to concentrate his mind on Krishna consciousness, rejecting all other practices of self-realization. So when we talk about all other practices of self-realization, what are they? So we hear about various other things like pursuit of mukti or liberation, and becoming one with God. We hear about the Mayavadis, the Brahmavadis, or bhukti, which is what most people are so adept at and completely busy and happy enjoying the fruits of their labor and karma, or siddhi, or any other Vedic procedure for that matter. We could have done things like dan, dhyan, prayaschitta, or yagyas to change his situation or take revenge or anything. But Maharaj Parikshit was very determined. He completely surrendered to the will of the Lord. He chose an auspicious location of the Amartya river. It could be Ganga or Yamuna, and there's some uh, contention about which one it is. Prabhupada in the translation is saying Ganga. Later here in the purport, he says Yamuna. And I guess geographically it looks like it could be Yamuna. But so he chose an auspicious location, gave up eating, for a number of reasons. One is not to waste any more time on the bodily platform, right? And to elevate his consciousness, detach himself completely from external things, even bodily functions. That's what fasting helps. And he took complete shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna Seva. This is something that we see Prabhupada did as well towards the end of his life. And why? Because bhakti, or the transcendental loving service of Krishna, is superior to all other methods. Right? And Krishna himself has declared this in the Bhagavad Gita in chapter 6. And the chapter itself is about Dhyan Yoga, and Krishna, talks about Ashtanga Yoga, Dhyan, Dharana, Pranayam, and etc. But he concludes the chapter with Yoginam api sarvesham madkaten antaratma Shraddhabhan bhajate yomam same yukta tamomata. So, which translates into, and of all the yogis, the one with great faith who always abides in me, thinks of me within himself, renders transcendental loving service to me. He is the most intimately united with yoga and is the highest of, that is my opinion. So in the purport here, Prabhupada very, very emphatically clarifies, talks about that the culmination of all kinds of yoga practices lies in Bhakti Yoga. Because all other yogas are means to come to the point of Bhakti and Bhakti Yoga. Yoga actually means Bhakti Yoga. All other yogas are progressions towards that destination. So from the beginning of Karma Yoga to the end of Bhakti Yoga is a long way to self-realization. Karma Yoga without fruitive results is the beginning of this path. And when Karma Yoga increases in knowledge and renunciation, that stage is called Jnana Yoga. When Jnana Yoga increases in meditation on the super soul by different physical processes, and the mind is on him, it is called Ashtanga Yoga. And when one surpasses the Ashtanga Yoga and comes to the point of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is called Bhakti Yoga, the culmination. And actually, Bhakti Yoga is the final goal of all this. So for a devotee like Maharaj Parikshit, none of the material planets, talks about over here, that none of the material planets within the universe, even the topmost Brahmaloka, is as desirable as Goloka Vrindavan, which is the abode of Lord Sri Krishna, the primeval Lord, original personality of Godhead. So why is that? Once again, Krishna explains that in Bhagavad Gita chapter 8, which is Attaining the Supreme, text 16. He says, Abrahma Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna. So from the highest planet in the material world down to the lowest, all are places of misery, right, wherein repeated birth and death takes place. And in contrast to that, Mamupetyatu Panteya Punar Janmana Vidyate. But one who abodes to my abode, O son of Kunti, never takes birth again. So we know that our universe has 14 planetary systems, 7 upper and 7 lower, and we are in the middle. And the upper planetary systems of Maharloka, Janarloka, etc., is like much more luxurious, right? One more luxurious than the other. But none of them are permanent. Even Lord Brahma in the topmost planetary system of Brahmaloka lives only for 100 years. And of course, it's a long 100 years, because each day of Brahma is Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So 1 day of Brahma, just if you look at the math a little, 1 day of Brahma is 1,000 kalpas, and 1 kalpa includes the 4 yogas, Satya, Treta, Dwapar, Kali. And Kali lasts for 432,000 years, Dwapar for twice that, Treta thrice, Satya Yuga for 4 times. So 1 kalpa is 4,320,000 Earth years. So 1 day of Brahma is 1,000 times that. So 100 years comes to about 311 trillion, some billion years. So to us, it may seem like eternity, but even Brahma is actually not really eternal. And in fact, Prabhupada says that from the viewpoint of eternity, it is actually as brief as a lightning flash. In the causal ocean, there are numerous Brahmas, right, appearing and disappearing like bubbles in the Atlantic. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu calls each universe as a small mustard seed in a bag of many mustard seeds. There are so many like this. So, if you consider that, Brahma and his creation is actually, in terms of eternity, is in constant flux, right? I mean, at the end of each day, there is partial annihilation. At the end of his life, of course, total annihilation. And Brahma himself is subject to birth, old age, disease, death. And this repeats again and again, even for him, leave alone us. So, Bhutva, Bhutva, Pralaya. So, coming back to the purport, not one of the planets within all the innumerable universes is suitable for the residential purposes of a devotee. And the devotee always desires to go back home, back to Godhead, just to become one of the associates of the Lord in the capacity of servitor, friend, parent, or conjugal lover of the Lord, either in one of the innumerable Vaikuntha planets or in Goloka Vrindavan, the planet of Lord Sri Krishna. So in comparison to this repeated birth, death, and the cycle of disease, and doesn't that sound like a much better deal, a much better proposition? Who doesn't want to go back home, right? I mean, think about, of course, because of the pandemic, travel has been curtailed quite a bit. But in the past, many of us used to travel every week for work. Sometimes, people have to stay for a couple of weeks or months together, depending on their project. And they have to stay in hotels. And it's not comfortable at all. I've heard people talk about, that they carry their pillows with them. I mean, that sounds kind of funny, but it's like, it's the pillow is the most comfortable. It has their own pillow has the exact firmness or the exact softness or whatever it is that they need. So if we extend that to everything else, like the prasadam at home, the configuration of our rooms, our furniture, our comfortable chair, our altar, we miss all that, and we look at the end of the trip. We look forward to the time that we're returning. So similarly, think about how ecstatic it will be for us to go back to that spiritual sky, back to Krishna in one of the 5 rasas, where everything is suited just for our needs perfectly. This is not the needs of the bodily we, but the real self. It's just going to be specific to what our soul, what we need as living entities. So let's take a look a bit at the description of that Golok Vrindavan that Prabhupada is talking about. And this is just like my Guru Maharaj says, is that the travel advertisement, so to say. So let me share this other thing, which is, I hope you can see the screen. This is This was given to us as part of our Bhakti Shastri. Wonderful teachers shared with us a description of Cintamani Dham or Golaka Vrindavan. Right? So it talks about the supreme abode of Lord Krishna, known as Golok Vrindavan, is full of palaces made of touchstone. There are also trees called desire trees, the Kalpavrikshas, that supply any type of eatable upon demand. There are cows known as Surabhi cows, which supply a limitless supply of milk. In this abode, the Lord is served by hundreds of thousands of goddesses of fortune, Lakshmis. He is called Govinda, the primeval Lord and the cause of all causes. The Lord is accustomed to blow his flute, the Venum Kwanantam. His transcendental form is the most attractive in all the worlds. His eyes are like lotus petals, and the color of his body is like the color of clouds. He's so attractive that his beauty excels that of thousands of cupids. He wears saffron cloth, a garland around his neck, and a peacock feather in his hair. So, I mean, how wonderful is that place? And then, in addition, in the Katha Upanishad, it talks about that there is nothing superior to the abode of the Supreme Godhead. And that abode is the ultimate destination. When one attains to it, he never returns to the material world. So, that's basically where we want to be. But one may ask, are these all stories, or do they really apply to us? And our acharyas say that definitely they do. Prabhupada and our acharyas have given us the way to achieve this goal through the Mahamantra, through scriptures, the Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, and of course the wonderful association that we have been able to get to. So, with regard to the Mahamantra in particular, my Guru Maharaj, His Holiness Srimad Swami says, chant with attention, like there is nothing more important to do. Nothing else that is more important to do. So if we as devotees, as aspiring devotees or whatever, we were to learn that we are going to die in the next hour or half a day or whatever, would we be looking at our cell phones to see, have we received a reaction to our latest post on Facebook or WhatsApp or whatever it is, or think about, oh, what clothes do I need to put in the washer, or where does that furniture go? I mean, there are so many things that we keep thinking about when we are chanting. But if we were in such a state, would there be anything that is more important than thinking of the Lord, of Krishna, focusing on that chanting? But our mind gives so many excuses, right? It's like, there's an interesting analogy that I heard, it was from Amarendra Prabhu, that if we were called to give a performance of a classical song, or some rag, Yaman or something, would we, go without any practice to the stage in the spotlight without tanpura and tabla and whatever not, and for the first time give our performance there and expect it to be perfect? No, right? I mean, we would practice and practice and practice to be perfect and give that perfect performance. So we know that death can come at any time. Our acharyas say, that at any point of time, whether we're in the kitchen, driving, any point of time. So we hear that chant all the time. Practice that chant. Uthite boshite karo Krishna naam. So that at the time of death, when it's going to be painful, like thousands of scorpions biting us and our throats choke up, somehow, because of that practice, we can start to take the name of the Lord. So, so that's what Maharaj Parikshit, the perfect receiver, he is the perfect receiver of the transcendental message, and that's the kind of Mahajans that we should emulate. So once again, while I am far from there, I'm just repeating what I've heard from my Guru Maharaj and from the Acharyas, so that others may be motivated, may be inspired to do that, and may bless me for sharing. So what I want to leave with us today is chant like there is nothing more important to do. Nothing more important for our consciousness. So that's all I had. Thank you very much. Sorry if I misspoke anything. I really don't have much knowledge or much realization at all, but I'm just glad to have had the opportunity to glorify Lord's devotee, Maharaj Parikshit, and of course his dham. So very much, please add or correct.
Hare Krishna, Cintamani mathaji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Gauranga.
Please accept my
Thank you, mathaji, for a very clear, crisp class. I felt you covered all the points very nicely, and I really like this your travel advertisement, as you said, to go to Goloka Dham. Yeah, this reminder of, like you said, this chanting, oftentimes because we become familiar, it becomes mechanical. So I feel like you really hit the, you hit the target in reminding us that how that is the most important thing. As you said at the end, if you can leave us with anything, chant, chant as if this is, like you said, death can come anytime.
Nothing more important, yes, Mataji.
Nothing more important than chanting. So yeah, just want to thank you for the reminder.
Thank you,
and appreciate your class very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So then we will stop here. Panchakripasan, Vachapatitan and Papan, Krishna, Konam. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam, Jai, Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
I go Pranam.
A nice class, and about the reminder what Govinda Mathaji said. Thank you.